Speaking of which, a big family?
My dad was 63 years old when I was born, and I was the youngest of 17 kids.
Well, that's an accomplishment for him, sir. Where was that at?
I always had to laugh and say that was before they had Viagra.
Well, we do have the miracles of modern medicine around here. Thanks goodness for all the experimentation.
So, out of that 17 families, there was a couple of us that was alcoholic. Are you familiar with alcoholism?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a survivor in recovery myself, so I do have the tenements of 15 years of not taking any alcohol into my body right now currently.
Wonderful, wonderful.
It is absolutely the best thing I ever did to my life, so I have no regrets there.
So out of that 17, there was I and a brother that were alcoholics. The girls could take a drink. There was no drinking in my home.
Yes.
None. Dad didn't drink and Mother never had a drink in her life.
What was your father's occupation? Was that part of it?
Pardon?
Your dad, what did he do for a living?
We were farmers.
Farmer, so...
We plowed mules and horses. Tractors had come into operation at this
Jimmy,
time.
what was the town you were born in? What was the name of where you're from?
Well, I was north of Little Rock, Arkansas, about 20 miles, in a little town called Bilonia. Bilonia. About 200 population.
Oh, right on. Anyway, where were we?
So I started drinking at a young age. My story is quite a bit about drinking and things that happened to me, if that's interesting to you.
I read the big book quite often. I'm familiar with Bob, and I know quite a few people that would be interested in anything you have to say on the matter, because we would take it as a good bit of advice, seeing as I would look across this table and say at your age it was a success story. So everyone, especially with something as mysterious and monstrous as the disease of alcoholism, if you have any words of wisdom partaken to that matter, I would surely love to have it.
I had an older brother. I had this thing called, we didn't call it alcoholism back in those days.
Yes, sir.
You were just a drunk or a lust well or what have you.
Understood.
And when you drank like we did, you just died.
Of course.
There was no recovery houses or what have you for alcohol back in the early 40s and late 39s.
They considered a lack of moral character and such.
Yes, yes. And I started drinking, and of course I started getting in trouble. I always had a blackout when I drank.
Rather heavy to drink to get a blackout now.
Almost every time I drank, I blacked out.
So you weren't out to just drink to have fun at the dance hall. You were out to get drunk every time you drank.
I drank from an obsession. I didn't have excuses to drink or use them, or because I didn't get a job or had one or lost a girlfriend. I just drank, period. When I thought of drinking, I went and drank and got drunk. And I think it was 18, I woke up in jail and didn't know what I was there for. And I hit a car doing 85 miles an hour and almost killed a man, his wife and daughter. So they had a charge of manslaughter against me. And thank God they lived. And that would have been something for me to live with if they'd have passed away.
So you'd have been somewhere in the teenage range at the time of that?
I was 18 or 19.
You were 18, just a troublemaker in the 40s at the time?
Yes, yes.
And then what happened right shortly thereafter?
Well, they dropped the charges and some men paid me out. And,
move around.
You know, I didn't want to get out.
Well, I can understand
I knew I'd drink again.
Oh, yeah?
I knew I'd drink again, and I was afraid I would kill somebody.
Institutionalized, as they like to say, to a point, or just knowing that you were probably better off in the cage or under supervision?
I was in there almost 2 weeks, I think, or 2 weeks.
Ooh,
But,
describe that place.
Pardon?
Describe that place.
Well, it was just a jail, an old country jail, and so they let me out. And this was in Arkansas, Corning, Arkansas, and they sent me to Louisiana. And of course, it wasn't but a week or two till I was drinking again. And at 19, I'm running a line crew, and they having to drive me to work because I still had a hangover so bad. So anyway, I left there and went to Los Angeles. I never did feel like I fit. I never did fit anywhere. I never did feel comfortable unless I was drunk.
Los Angeles in the early 1940s?
In 30s.
In the 30s?
Yeah.
It was still mostly an orange grove.
So I went down there, and of course you end up on Skid Row at the lowest places I could drink. And then I had a brother that was working in Albany, Oregon, and he was a lineman. So I come out to see him, but he had fallen with him and broke his leg, and he was in a cast, and they was paying him full wages to stay around and stay drunk. So I got in on that, and we would just stay around and drink. And then World War II broke out, and it broke out on a Sunday, and I just turned 21 in November. So I went down and told them, I said, I just turned 21, I'm ready to go. And they said, we don't know what to do with you. Come back in 10 days. And I said, well, I'll go home and see Mom and Dad. So I did. Then I was shipped to Riverside, California. And then I was shipped to Seattle, Washington. And we was stationed on the 6th floor. And we didn't have to have a pass to go out, you know. We just went out.
In Fort Lewis?
Pardon?
Somewhere up by Fort Lewis?
This was downtown Seattle.
Oh, you're still in internment heading out.
On the 6th floor of the county courthouse. And so we just do our job. But we had a plotting system. And if the Russians flew a plane, we could take charge and spot where it was going. Of course, I stayed drunk all the time, but pretty soon they shipped me out of there to Payne Field. And I was over at Payne Field with a P-38 outfit. And we stayed there and we shipped to Pendleton, Oregon. And we stayed there 3 months, I believe. And then we came back and I was shipped to San Rafael. And of course, I'm drinking all the time.
North, south, and back down south again. So California, here you come again.
So anyway, we stayed there, and then I was shipped to Tonopah, Nevada. And I left there and went to Casper, Wyoming, and we were shipped there to overseas. And we got overseas, and we was eventually attached to the 8th Air Force, and we got P-51s to fly over there. Now, I'm not a pilot, but I was a crew chief on P-51s. And of course, I drank all the time. And I done things that I should have been court-martialed for. And if they'd have caught me, it would have been a firing squad.
So you were a sergeant. Because you'll find that that's not necessarily uncommon.
So I drank, and of course when the war was over, we were shipped to Germany, and I was over there, and I got in the black market pretty deeply, Had 4 stolen Germany cars. I'd done it once, but and I went anywhere and dealt in that, and I was caught in that, and I had quite a bit of loot, so they didn't want to turn the loot in, so they turned me loose. Cost me 14 grand at that.
Oh, those dirty bastards.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Now, I don't know if this is what
Did you keep the
want from me
paintings?
or not, but this is the way my life has gone.
That's okay.
And so eventually I was shipped back to the States. In fact, Parker, Arizona wrote a letter in to get me out to build some towers out there and work on the highlights
So you were a damn good mechanic then.
in 1948. So
Broke some knuckles on them aircraft, have you?
Pardon?
Put a few hours in them aircraft, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on P-51s.
You knew them inside and out, didn't you?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but anyway, did you ever hear of Chuck Yeager?
Oh, yeah, he took a roundabout around the planet from a pretty high perch on a garbage can with a rocket strapped to it. Yeah, that guy.
Well, we was in the same outfit for 3 years.
Well,
Yeah.
no shit.
And then he'd come home and I stayed over there for a while. But I came back to Parker and I knew I was dying. I knew alcohol was killing me. And I lived in total fear all this time and died drunk. And that's a horrible way to live. And I went back to Little Rock hoping my family could help me. And of course I didn't go to my family. I just felt too guilty. And there was a guy there that run a power line construction, and he knew me and he hired me right away. And I went to work for him, and there was a guy.
Do you remember his name at all?
Pardon?
Do you remember his name?
Ralph.
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 Thank you, Ralph. Wherever you are.
And
He gets that one.
so there's a guy dating the girl, and she had a sister, and they wanted me to go with her. Of course, I did. And we all went out and got drunk, and she and I woke up in bed married.
Well, Arkansas be damned. I guess what they were probably going to tell you needed to change your life, didn't you? Was it a justice of the peace, or was it the local pastor that had done the ceremonial nuptiaries while you were getting your free tattoo?
We woke up a farmer that was a preacher, and
Hey, now this is good. This is for real. We can't even go with the farmer's daughter deal. It happened, didn't it?
yeah.
Okay, sir. My hat's off to you. Salute. Thank you very much. There has been endless Henny Youngman jokes written in your honor.
So anyway, that didn't last too long. In Arkansas at that time, you could go down in the morning and fill out the papers, and the judge met that afternoon at 2, and he'd divorce you. So you got a...
How much was that?
25 bucks.
25 damn dollars and 19.
$25.
That's
Get a
a
divorce.
racket, baby. Oh, no, cash only. Nobody gets to revenue any of that. It's a county deal. Fantastic.
So anyway, I had a guy I run around with, got drunk, and we got in jail, and my sister got us out, and he lived 14 blocks up Main Street, Little Rock, and I went up to
Was
see
this
him.
after the war now?
Huh?
Was this after the war?
This is after the war. This is when I got out from Parker. And I went to see him, and I said, Johnny, I'm crazy. I said, there's something wrong with me. I said, anyone drinks like I do. And I'd done some bad things. I'd damn near killed a couple of guys. And so I said, that it goes back to drinking. It has to be crazy. And he said, me too. And he mentioned AA, Alcoholics Annonomus, I mean it. And I don't know if I'd ever heard of it before then or not. But I said, well, if I don't know if they can help me as bad as I am, but I said, if they can't, I'm just going to die. I said, I'm not going to live this way. So we went downtown and went upstairs, and there was about 10 guys in there sober. And I started to walk out, and the guy said, are you looking for someone? I said, I'm looking for Alcoholics Anonymous. And he said, this is it. And I said, well, I need some of it. And I thought maybe they'd give me a shot or pills or something, because I'm covered in blue. And he gave me the big book to read. And my education is very limited. And I thought, my God, for me to read that book, I'll never do it. So I said, I'll go to the back, and maybe I'll find some answers. I'm sure they'd give me a test. And I went to the back, and I read the people that had drank like me and recovered. And that's the first hope I ever had I wouldn't die drunk. So to make a long story short, they give me a cot to sleep on and fed me for 2 weeks. And there was a construction company across the street, IK Electric. And I never read the newspaper, but I'm reading one. And they needed a line for me, but I went over and told him about me, and he hired me. And
So
we
you'd
went up
strung
to-
electrical lines there before you'd gone into the
Yeah.
service, yeah.
So we went up the mountains, and there was very few AA meetings in them days. And I was 100 and something miles from it, so I went to work and things went real well. I married again, and I've been married numerous times. And we bought a home and things went well. But this girl drank a few beers once in a while, nothing to excess. I never saw her drink over 3 maybe. And I come in one day, she said, Jimmy, you're an alcoholic, you know you can't drink much, but you're hot and you're thirsty. And I got 3 beers in the icebox, let's each drink one, and we'll split the third. Thought of it a minute, and I said, okay, I'll drink this, and then we'll have another for 2 years. So we drank it, and to show you the alcoholic thinking, I poured the third to make sure I got my half. That's the way the alcohol mind works.
Like, Mom, I got this cut
So
the cake.
I didn't turn green, and I didn't explode, and I went to work the next day, not thinking of drinking, till I started home. And the clock had been turning up here, and it said get 3 and have 3 tonight. And I never bought 3 beers in my life in a package store, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I said, I'll buy a 6-pack, and we'll have 3 tonight, 3 tomorrow night. That's brilliant alcoholic thinking. So we went in, and we had our 3, and I turned green, and I exploded, and I was drunk for about 5 years after that, off and on. Went to Alaska and worked, and made pretty good money enough to buy a home again. And up there, I was working in the Yukon this time, and you couldn't get booze there. And if you got sick, they sent you to Fort Barrow, and they didn't sell booze at that time. But if you need the dentist, they fly you 500 miles back to Fairbanks. So we got a guy to take a chipping hammer and bust his tooth. And they sent him into Fairbanks, and we gave him a suitcase that would hold 28 pills.
Shopping list.
And the good alky that he was, when he got there, he said, I'll buy Everclear. And we could split it and have twice as much.
Well, hey.
So, you know, we're pretty sharp when it comes to booze. And anyway, he'd come back and we all got drunk. And at that time, this is in '57, they're paying me $3,000 a month and all my expenses. That's pretty good money in them days. And,
What was the business?
Pardon?
What was the business?
Climbing poles and building towers up in Alaska.
Oh, High Lines.
And we was building towers for the
things I've heard
collectors.
most stories.
So if the Russians set off planes, we could detect them as soon as
Signal Corps.
Pardon?
Signal Corps?
No, I was working for a power company.
Oh.
And so anyway, he come back and I got drunk and I called the bush pilot to break me out. And they brought me out and it was getting close to Christmas. And I'm falling apart, really coming unglued. And close to Christmas, and the wife left me and tucked the boy in, and I knew I was defeated. I knew I'd hit the bottom of the barrel. And I just had no desire to live. So when she left, I'm on a horrible drunk, and I go downtown to not have fun, but to get well. In them days, the only way we knew how to overcome a hangover was to get drunk again. So I walked this beer joint, and saw 10 or 12 guys in there that I knew. And you wouldn't give a dime for any of us. Sorry, bunch of guys, liars and cheats, and had the morals of an alley cat. And I said, Jimmy, you become everything in life you hate. You hate everything you've ever done. And I had believed in a higher power since I was a kid. Not the way it was taught me, but I just believed there's something that developed this great planet I lived on. But he cramped my style. I didn't want to follow his directions. And I'd always resisted a higher power. But that day, it didn't make any difference. I said, whatever he gives me is better than what I got. And I said, I'll do anything in the world to never have to take a drink. And I've never desired a drink since that day. And that was Christmas Day. Last Christmas Day was 64 years ago. And I've never desired a drink since then. And
Your personal experience, was there a name attached to that spirit that you answered right then?
is there a name?
For you, was there?
A higher power.
You just referred to it as
Higher
the
power
higher.
or a great spirit, they're both one and the same. And I used to think prayer was for sissies. Us tough guys didn't pray. And I've changed my mind on that. I'm very prayerful. Most of my prayers are thanking him for what I have and the life that he's given me and the life I'm living today. And I didn't think I'd be 21, live to be 20. Had 4 brothers that was killed by the time I was 21. Horses killed a couple of cars. And they didn't drink. And I just didn't figure I'd live over 21. And here I am, 101, having the best life I've ever had. There's much more to it, but I can take up the time off.
I have nothing to do until I get called.
My first marriage was while I was in the service. I was in Seattle, incidentally, and went to a B-joint. You know what a B-joint is?
Somewhere where they play that hoochie coochie music and
well, it's where they have these good-looking girls that they in there. And when you want a drink, they rub up beside you, and they get you drunk and steal you blind. So I was in there, and the girl told me to meet her after it was over. And
I think we call them strip clubs now.
might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they called them that back in Roman times anyway. Same thing.
So anyway, we shacked up until she could get a divorce and went to Las Vegas and married. And the divorce was final, but she had to sign the papers. So we had to get
This is Vegas in the 50s. So you're running off to Vegas to get a quick divorce to get married.
Well, we got the divorce in Seattle,
Oh,
but
okay.
she didn't wait long enough to sign the papers.
Yeah.
So we had to get an annulment. And for that time, I went overseas. Of course, that was over. And we come back, and I was in San Francisco, and they had the old international settlement at that time. They've since closed it. It's 4 or 5 blocks, and they had everything there you wanted. So I'd usually go down there, and sometimes I'd make it home, and sometimes I wouldn't. And I come to, and 2 girls had picked me up off the street, and I finally got a mind where I knew what they was talking about, and they asked me where I lived. I told them. They said, "We live closer, we'll take you home." So they took me home, and anyway, one of them took me over
Thanks.
and got me to where I could eat solids, and got
Good.
to run around together. And she said, "We want to go to Reno and get married," and that suited me. And we got to Reno, and she said, "Well, I'll have to get a divorce first." And of course, we stayed there till she could get a divorce and get married. Of course, that didn't last long. But then when I come back, I told you about the girl I married overnight at the apartment. So then we divorced, and then I married the woman that had my son, and we got a divorce. That was when I got drunk Christmas. I was drunk all the time. I don't drink. I've never drank it. And then I met a girl. I went to AA, and I was sober a year and 3 months. And the woman called, and there was no women to go see her, so I went to see her. She was literally dying, black and blue, and her teeth knocked out, and she weighed 80 pounds, and she begged me not to leave her. She said, "I'll die." And I knew I couldn't shack up anymore. That was over for me, so I said, "We'll go to Reno and marry." So the next day we went to Reno and married, and we was married 35 years and 3 days when she passed away with Alzheimer's disease. She had it 7 years, and I was able to take care of her all those years. I thought I was very, very lucky to take care of someone that I cared for. And then she died, and I met another girl, and she's from Ottawa, Canada. I knew her 2 days, and I went to Ottawa, Canada, and I couldn't get married in Canada. So we went to New York, and they said it would take 3 days. I said, "That's too long." So I called Burlington, Vermont, and I said, "What does it take to get married over there?" And they said, 2 warm bodies over 18 and 25 bucks. So we went over there and got married.
And now wait a second. An act, I guess.
So we married, and then 2.5 years she took Alzheimer's, and we've been past for 6 months. And went from 124 pounds to 40.
Oh.
And, I was able to take care of her, and she passed away. And then another woman had lost her husband, and she come to Yuma, and she wanted to play golf, and I was playing golf at that time, and I took her to the driving range, and we was practicing her golf, and she was engaged. So one day she said, "I broke my engagement." She said, "I gave you your ring back." And I guess the next day I said, "You know, we ought to marry." She said, "I'll have to think that over." And I'm years older than her. And she was gone about an hour, and she come back, she said, yeah, I'll marry you. So we went down and got married. And we was married, let's see, 16 years when she passed away. And then I married another girl that was 36, and I was 96 at the time. And she had bipolar. I don't know if you're acquainted with that or not.
Oh yes, I do.
So she was just totally go away. And anyway, I got numb from that. And I don't know where she is now. I don't know. Bless her heart. She's living out of a car or something. So then I met another girl and we married, and I said something that she took personally, and she left me, and we got a divorce. And we're talking now. We're pretty good friends now.
Well, you've taken that 12-step to a full extreme now, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
We can't save the world now, you know.
Any measures, you know. So anyway, we've been divorced a year and a half or 2 years after the marriage. We're talking friendly now, so we don't know how that will turn out. But I've lived a full life. I was married to some great women, and they had hatched my life, and I had hatched theirs. And that's what life's all about, is to help somebody through life. And that's my desire today, is try to help somebody through life if I can. And God's given me that opportunity once or twice. I'm very grateful for that. So I'm 101 years old, and I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
So you'd say the good Lord was playing a bet and having a game and said, aha, well, I'll prove you different.
So that's about it. I don't know if that was the story you was looking for.
Oh, I've never been looking for any particular story, but I cherish every one that comes across the table, sir. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate every moment. I do. Let me know.
I think I'm one of the luckiest kids in the world. I've had a lot of experiences, and that's all you get out of life is your experiences.
Well, surviving alcoholism and recovering to have a long, successful love life, lovable life, it speaks volumes, and that's the real message for AA as a whole, is just your personal story of hope and recovery. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I mean, that's.
I feel like I'm so blessed. I'm just loving life, I guess, better than I ever have. I think this is a wonderful world we live in.
Isn't it, though?
Yes.
That is a beautiful day. Oh, and you know what's even better than that? A kind, wonderful next-door neighbor that always has your heart in mind. Especially with the most important things. Thank you, Marilyn. Look at this. This is so
You're very
nice.
welcome.
Give it a rest for a minute. Oh,
There's
well,
some
I'm
potato
going to
chips,
stop
and
this
these are
for
like
just a
little,
second. Call it
puffed up
a
crackers.